Welcome back, dear folks, to the end of the year, and we are back at Comedy, Luxembourg's finest metal podcast. And finally, there's three of us in one, let's call it a room, even it's just a meeting room, but we made it.
We made it, yeah. It's that time of the year again.
Exactly. How are you guys?
Oh, fantastic. It's almost the end of the year.
I mean, what do you want, right? I know what people want out there. Basically, they have no clue what happened in Comedy, since we took quite a while to do a video episode with the three of us. So basically, the third and the most handsome guy on the desk here joined us not too long ago. The metal inspector himself, Daniel, who has joined the family of Comedy, and we are super glad that he made it. And
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, and we are
You're welcome.
Very, very happy that you bring your knowledge and your wisdom, your metal wisdom, because
wisdom. Wouldn't be so sure. You might rethink that statement after this episode. So.
We'll see. We'll talk about that later on. But anyway, we are here today for, obviously, I mean, by the time we are recording this, it's early December, and there's been quite a few metal records this year. More than we can handle, for sure. But we somehow made it to do a top 10 list, and individual lists. Obviously, the three of us made separate ones because we have very different taste to stay clear and to give an idea of what is going on here. You know,
we have different taste, but still there's a few albums which are the same on our lists.
True, that is quite true. But then again, I mean, with the sheer amount of madness that's been released this year, it's hard to keep up, right?
It's impossible to keep up.
It's impossible,
It's like every month there's like 200, 300 metal albums that come out, and you just have to sieve through the filter to find something that appeals to you. And
exactly.
That's what you go for. And we tend to go for a lot of similar things, but all three of us, we have certain, let's say, records that only one of us found and the other two don't know about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we checked the list, our individual lists beforehand, and as Daniel said, I mean, there are several ones that they don't know, there are several ones that I don't know, so it's really a well-balanced mix of insanity.
Can say that.
To resume, and so to speak. And obviously there was a lot going on also in the Luxembourgish metal scene, and we have to give a huge thank you and shout out to all the Luxembourgish bands that either released a record, an EP, or joined the podcast or whatever. I mean, we can name a few. Obviously, there's Blanket Hill to start. There's Aeonic. There's Azathor. There's Parity with an absolutely blasting nice EP. What else was there? There Miles to Petition, who released their final and last EP. That was an absolute banger to listen to. Really enjoyable and really destructive, so to speak. We lose track already. Or I lose track. So we jump right into it and start with our individual number 10s. I have found a very weird and strangely monotonous band a few years back, and they released a record this year called Sacrifice, a Russian band called OLHAVA. Very, very weirdly relaxing to listen to, even though it's post-atmospheric black metal with extremely long tracks that can go on to 20 minutes long, right? And for some reason, I don't know, it's very catchy to my ear. I can't really tell why, but I don't know. It's nice to listen to when you have like a walk in nature, or when you basically want to just fade out and just get lost in your thoughts, basically.
I'm not quite sure. I don't remember if I have listened to OLHAVA or not. If so, I don't remember. But as you described it, I already know that's chill music, definitely.
Again,
it sounds made for you.
Made for you, yeah.
I remember it's popping up somewhere in my lists, but I never got to check it out. Maybe I checked out the first two songs or so.
Yeah.
It's like music that I need to be in the mood in for it, and
For
at
sure.
that moment I was not in the mood.
For sure.
But as Pitcher said, that this is typical Gilles music. So
Yeah.
I'll present my number 10 of this year, and that is GAEREA, the Portuguese black metal band with their album Coma. They have been for years now on, I would say, a bit of a winning streak.
Yep.
Their last two albums were pretty intense, were very well received. Actually, all of their albums so far have been very well received. And but it's interesting to see how this Portuguese band has been pushing their sound. They're not just doing the same thing, but they're looking for a new direction. So they became a bit more experimental on Coma.
Yeah,
so
true.
You have a bit more post-metal, a little bit of progressive metal, and yet they keep that dark, mournful sounds that they are known for, which is very dense, very oppressive.
Yeah.
And theme-wise, they continue to kind of look at the intertwined complexities and conflicts of the human mind. So they are covered in this black body paint. They wear these black balaclavas. The whole outfit, everything is just pure black. There's no color in it. Even their skin is always black.
Yeah.
And they consider themselves like messengers from the tragic, unsettling sides of everyday life. And that's basically the full extent of their artistic expression. And I found that this album was very deep, very evocative, but also ventured occasionally into a bit more dreamier, woeful, mournful areas, like with songs like Wilted Flower or Suspended. And so it's not raw black metal, but it's a bit more like post-black metal as well. And yet it's, from a technical point of view, very intense. So lots of blast beats, dense arrangements, shivering tremolo, hard riffage, the screams, so the vocals, and I think they get better with every album. I felt that in their first maybe two albums, I found the vocals a bit too much on the agonizing side, a bit too much, and I think it's a little less, but I think it sounds more refined, and therefore, for me at least, it sounds more appealing. So for anybody that likes post-black metal or just raw black metal or any forms in between, they really should check this out. These guys keep impressing us, and that's why they are in my top 10.
It's extremely well produced, and as you said, they continue to evolve, right? So yeah, it's nice to see that they are getting recognized also as being like a top tier black metal band of whatever genre. But
well, this was not intentionally, but GAEREA with Coma is also on my number 10. They wrote once more disturbingly but yet beautiful piece of modern black metal with sound layers, with evil vocals, guitar melodies, and incredibly good mixed sound. And I think GAEREA have definitely found their sound and the new identity.
Also really love the album artwork. This big blue eye, there's like a city on top, and it looks towards the city, it looks kind of up. Then there are like tears that come out, and there are people inside the tears that's just being washed away. It's kind of abstract, and it kind of represents what they stand for.
Yeah, and you said it, like compared to the previous records, this artwork was already like, oh, this is kind of a new direction, and I think that goes with the whole theme, right?
Yeah, and it's in white and blue.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite of how they usually present themselves.
Yeah. That's already the third time that they are on my top 10 list since we are beginning with this podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Was in 2002, they were on place number 1, and the Rush was released on 22, I think.
It was 22, yeah.
And was also on my number 1. This time was number 10.
Let's continue. I'll move on to my number 9. spot is called VIPASSI with the record Lightless that came out in January or February, beginning of the year. And it's, I think, the first time I'll put an instrumental record on a top 10 list, because I like my instrumental music, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's difficult to get the feel of an instrumental record, because it can be overwhelming because there's so much instrumentation going on.
Yeah.
This is not very much different though, but for some reason it's more ethereal and yet technical and kind of weird and jazzy. VIPASSI is a combination of ex or former Neoblivis Caris members and active Neoblivis Caris members. And the interplay between the instruments, there's only 3. So there's a guitar, there's a drum, and there's a bass. I think I've never heard something as well written without having a voice in music, especially in metal music. And I think for that reason alone, and I keep listening to the record even now, it's just overwhelmingly complex, so to speak. And I don't know, it's just dragging in its technical prowess, and it doesn't let loose on every turn. Like there's these small breaks and these small the breaks and the small synth elements, they just give like this certain je ne sais quoi, and I don't know why. But anyway, number 9, VIPASSI.
Sounds extremely intriguing, especially after you mentioned Neoblivis Caris.
Yeah.
So I just wondered what happened that I had not heard about this.
They've been around for I think at least 8 years. I could be wrong though.
Oh, okay.
And they consist of Benjen and Dan Preslin. I mean, right? And sorry to the bass player, I forgot your name, but you're not in Neoblivis Caris, so that's why I don't know. But they've been around for quite a while. They had a record years back that I totally missed out, and beginning of the year again with Lightless had not a big as an impact as I hoped it to have. I mean on the scene, because again, instrumental records are not everybody's thing. Check it out.
Yeah, me too. I don't listen very often to only instrumental metal music. I think the only other band I can think of is Animals as Leaders. But when you say, there's a band with Dan Presslett in it, it sounds really interesting, I think.
Well, imagine, just imagine Animals as Leaders, but with a more proggy vibe and less overload of geekness in terms of what can I do on a guitar. I mean, I'm not saying they don't know how to play. VIPASSI, they're really top-notch players, but it's not as confusing as Animals as Leaders can be sometimes. Yeah.
Not as geeky.
Okay, so I suggest we move to my number 9.
Already?
Number 9. This is a band that we talked about during the Hidden Gems episodes. And this is a Chinese progressive band called O. This is really the odd one out on my list. So nothing remotely sounds like this album. I call them progressive band. You can't even call them a real metal band. You guess, okay, they have electric guitars and they have like a genty kind of grooves, but that's it's more than just a progressive metal band. I guess they have it's more like a mix of prog, but also house, some electronica, some pop metal. This band was founded by an American expatriate, Anthony Vanacore, and he has he's very interested in Chinese music and Chinese culture, and he has been very busy in the Chinese or rather Beijing music scene, and they quite have a lot of stuff happening there that we are not even remotely familiar with, where they cook up something that is, more a bit heavier, a bit, faster. It's not the usual kind of slop of metal that we're used to here in Europe. You can kind of hear this experimentation when I tell you that the co-producer is Devin Townsend.
Yeah.
who really also kind of was interested in working with these guys, because he likes anything that is different, anything that is outside of the norm. We have idiosyncratic layers, we have kind of very genty grooves, but then we have emotive, ethereal vocals that are all sung in Chinese. Not of what we're used to, and there's no growling, no screaming,
Yep.
nothing like that. So it's a very poppy kind of singing, but there is also emotion that goes in it. It really drives the emotional flow of the album. And all of that kind of is then supported by a very techy, experimental kind of sound. So it's really cool. It's very different. It might not be for everybody, but since it was so fresh and unique for my taste, I wanted to have it in my top 10 list.
Yeah, I think you said, I think I've never heard anything close to what O has released with this record. But this one you can really tell, I mean, between the first and the second record, there's like a huge gap in terms of production and everything. But could this be the modern evolution of progressive music? I think it's very well possible, because it has the features and it has the time signatures and as you said, the grooviness. I really enjoyed the record, to be fair.
We talked already about it in the
that's
Hidden Gems episode that you already talked about it. I gave it a listen, and it's very different from everything I listened to. It's very interesting, but at that moment it wasn't quite what I want to hear. Now, Not Loose with You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To. Not Loose are probably one of the most commercially successful bands of the last few years. I mean, they have played on Coachella, one of the biggest festivals on the planet, and they were on Jimmy Kimmel show recently live. And
they destroyed the whole stage, basically.
They destroyed the whole stage, you can say that. And you can say, some people would say, yeah, that's already sellout, but if you listen to the music, that's definitely nothing you could describe as sellout, because that's one hell of an hardcore album. With the riffs are really feel nasty, slow, chunky, and the breakdowns and the screams are insane. Some people don't like the high-pitched screams of
I know
vocalists.
who.
But the vocalist, I get it. I can understand why, but I think it fits well. It fits well with the music, and it sounds so angry, and the whole band sounds very angry. The mix on this album is pretty raw, which I personally like. It's very short. It's a very short album, and it doesn't invent anything new, but it destroys everything in its way. And I kept coming back to it throughout the year.
Alone the fact that the single "Suffocate" with Poppy, right? I mean, that became like the anthem of 2024 right now. Kind of. And I mean, they are just pissed. Any song, they are super pissed all the time, and that's kind of enjoyable. The sheer anger they portray. That's kind of nice.
It's really heavy and destructive. I personally haven't issues with the vocals. I'm one of those people. I called it SpongeBob vocals, but it's kind of mean, I know. But I also get it when people dig this and if those vocals go together with this devastating. These devastating riffs that you just want to break everything around you.
It's very energetic music.
It's good for a workout.
Or when you're stuck in jam. Wow. banger song.
You just want to punch people in the face.
I want to like drive into them. I don't care, you know. Who needs a car anyway? I'll just destroy my car. Number 8. My turn. Hand of KALLIACH with Corryvreckan. Heaviest and biggest shout out to John and Sophie for all their input and their knowledge about this record. We did an episode together. I think that was this year still. So much happened this year, I forgot. But what a great record. I really enjoyed the record, even though it's for some some even might consider, and I talked to several people, I tried to introduce this record to a few people that were unfamiliar with this folk-inspired metal music, and for them it's just like, it's melodic death metal, or basic melodic death metal with folk. I tend to say yes and no. It's easy to listen to, I agree on that. It's nothing too complex about it, but it's solid death metal or melodic death metal, and this folk-inspired stuff, but without the cheesiness of of folk music sometimes. So and the eeriness and the dark vibes that Sophie brings with the vocals, and then the contrast to John's super aggressive vocals is impressive. I really dug the record very much, and I still do. And I think it's one of the standout folk records for this year.
Yeah, I can definitely see why it would make your top 10. I really love this album. It's so energetic.
Yeah, I think that's the right word. Yeah, energetic.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Every second of this record is so entertaining.
Yeah. I give it also a few tries, and as you said, it's very easy to listen to. It has kind of a relaxing vibe, I think.
Kind
of,
yeah.
Elements. Really good to listen to.
My number 8, and this is a big one. This is ULCERATE, Cutting the Throat of God. This band, they're from New Zealand, and when you take on the daunting task of processing one of their records, you need to have certain standards of music. You need to have, let's say, an interest in something that breaks with convention. You need something you want something that is sophisticated, oppressing, dark, and it remains challenging to listen to, but everything they throw out there, every riff, every hit of the drums, it's done with full intention, and they know so very well what they're doing. So if you actually made a tier list of the best, let's say, technical avant-garde death metal bands with, let's say, some dissonant adjacent soundscapes, you could put these easily into the upper tier, the highest tier there is. They have 7 LPs to demonstrate why they are so popular. Even as a kind of very underground, let's say in a very kind of niche kind of metal segment, it's such a powerful record. But you will be tired afterwards, because a lot of stuff is happening.
These are Pit and Daniel records. I gave it a try. It's seriously interesting, but you really have to stay focused, like, or at least for me, even though I like to fade out, but it can get overwhelming pretty fast. And I think that's the reason why I did not get into the record, but nonetheless, I know, and as the reviews of other people or whatever, this is one of the biggest records of the year.
Yeah, I guess it's an okay album, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. It's almost on my list, but much higher. Daniel already said a few good words about it, and I think I will keep mine for later.
Okay.
Yeah, good choice, safe choice. Let's do that then.
My number 8 is NECROWRETCH with Swords of Dajjal. Also an album we already talked about on our last Gems episode. So I'm gonna keep it short. It's a French black metal band. We created a concept album about an evil entity of the ancient Islamic mythology. It's a very well produced mix of black metal and also death metal, with filthy vocals, melodic yet groovy guitar riffs, cold tremolos, and lots of blast beats. I mean, if that's already not enough, what do you want more? I really love this album for what it is, for its style and for its haunting and dense atmosphere that it creates.
Number 7, one of the longest title tracks of a record I have on my list. And one of the more interesting artworks I have seen in years. So the band is called LOWEN, or LOWEN. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Do not go to war with the Demons of Mazandaran. Yes, where to start? I didn't know the band at all, so this is my first record of them. Very progressive doom metal aspect, these ethnical Middle Eastern vibes. They're just, I don't know, they just get me. I really like, let's call it Oriental inspired music, if it's like folk, metal, or jazz. And this is kind of, for some, a bit more slow paced, because again, it's very doomy, but progressive again. So the songs tend to be a bit more dragging. But I think that fits with the theme. I mean, the other part, and that's the thing that stood out to me, was the otherworldly voice and chanting in this really ethnical and, I would say, stereotypical for this portrayal of Mesopotamian-inspired world. I don't know, it's really like therapy, basically, or like meditation-ish kind of a vibe, and I really dig that. And I think LOWEN is one of those bands that will probably become, at least I hope so, one of the newer, bigger, progressive metal bands out there, because I think they have all that needs to be like done to release something like this and stay atop of the actual modern metal scene. That is, these things, they don't get recognized enough. That's basically what I'm saying. So, and yeah, that's why they are my number 7.
Now, when you just said things like these don't get recognized enough, I fully agree with you there. I also discovered this band by more or less by accident. What caught my attention was the artwork. I love the artwork.
It's insane.
So
insanely detailed, right?
Yeah, the detail is a lot, and you have like this combination of like some kind of fish creatures and an alien, and in a big temple, people worshiping in it. It's very colorful, but full of details. And yeah, I mean, you summed it up very well. What stands out the most are the vocals that are sung in Farsi and in English. I mean, I reviewed this record on my blog as well. Yeah, the riffs are pretty intense as well. So it actually works. It kind of goes hand in hand. So on one side, it's kind of ancient, mysterious kind of vocals with that, let's say, Mesopotamian flair, and then kind of like galloping riffs and also very good drums. It's an album that it's the secret tip of the list.
I have to confess, I didn't listen to this at all. But actually, I love Middle Eastern influences in metal music, and the way you described it for now, I would like to listen to it. I think
the closest band I think of when I think of Middle Eastern music is probably Marrakesh, or some songs of Shamash, maybe, that get these. Septic Flesh did some songs as well, but I think this is really like a full record with a certain storytelling way, and this, as Dan described it very beautifully, detail. As the artwork, the record is full of details.
Is it more heavy? Is it more progressive, or is it really just straight doom metal?
I think it's none of the three. I think it's very well balanced. This is a perfect interplay between doom, prog, and let's just call it Middle Eastern influences. I think they all work very well and balanced together. So we'll move on.
That would be my number 7.
Yes.
And that is an American band called HUNTSMEN, and the album is called The Dry Land. This is also a bit different than most of the records on my list. And this is a band, I would call it a mix between post/doom, the sounds mixed together with the sound of American folk music, which is commonly regrouped under the term Americana. So yeah, you would have things like neo blues or a country.
Okay.
That's kind of like that's just many of the, let's say, musical genres that you would consider Americana. I had to actually look that up too.
Okay.
And this album is very interesting because it has 4 vocalists, And
Okay,
so
yeah.
there's a wide range of emotional weight and distinct styles. So you have gentle tones, mournful textures that are being contrasted by harsh vocals, where they say go more into desperation and anger, and then yet they reverse it with clean vocals. So you'll find a little bit of OPETH or sermon in here.
Okay.
And that the vocals are the guiding force of this album. And I would say one of the best vocal performances as a band, but not just by one person, of the year, at least in my opinion. What is the music about? Duality of light and dark, the darkness, the good, the bad, chaos, order. They try to kind of bring it together through their music by constantly like shifting the moods and the pace. And it's an album that takes its time. The songs are long, and they're very engaging, very easy to listen to, interesting to listen to. And for bass lovers, I mean, I listened to this album again this morning. The bass is so good. Really, it's just has a nice punchy sound. So another like a bit of a secret tip from me, and I would implore everybody to give this a listen.
Well, you sold it very well, because you said several things now that I didn't know the record at all. But I mean, you said it like 4 vocalists already. That's like music to my ears, and a bass, because bass obviously very often gets left out in the mix or underappreciated instrument.
You just forgot the name of a bass player before, so there you go.
True.
Happens to everybody, unfortunately.
Yeah. But we'll give it a listen. What do you think, Bit? We should definitely go into that. This sounds intriguing.
I didn't know anything about this band, and it sounds really intriguing how Dad described it. And
we'll check it out.
We'll check it out, yeah, definitely. On 7, I got Replicant with Infinite Mortality, another band we talked about on our Hidden Gems episode. I think Daniel talked about it.
Yes.
This is the first of many dissonant metal albums in my list. This one blew my mind, and thanks to Dan for recommending it. Yeah, as I already mentioned, this is dissonant and evil-sounding death metal album. We all know dissonance in metal is not for everybody. It's not easy to listen to. In the case of Replicant, however, they managed to reveal the true color of insane, catchy riffs that kept me mesmerized. Like Gojira-like scrapes on the guitar and groovy drums, and also a heavy bass line on the whole album. I think for a dissonant metal album, this is very fun to listen to, and it made me addicted for months.
Do you know the name of the bass player?
No. I don't know the name of any member of the band.
There you have it. Just kidding. I haven't gotten into this record as much as I should. I know that Dan already gave a huge praise to this record, and I mean both of you did in some ways on the Hidden Gem episode. So I have some homework to do, and I guess
it's a satisfyingly disgusting record.
Satisfyingly disgusting.
Yeah, that describes it very well. Very well.
And I think with that, we move to my number 6, which is not at all that at all. I'm talking about Devin Townsend and Powernerd on my number 6. A very happy album compared to Replicant, for example. And fun enough that I actually decided to put Devin Townsend on the list. Honestly, I was struggling, as we all did, to fill our top 10 list because there was just too much to choose from. And this record, compared to Lightwork, the previous record, or Empath, this one, for some reason, and I don't really know why, just got to me on a very emotional way. It's kind of funny because I know Devin anyway, he does his thing, right? He doesn't care about standards or norms or whatever. As Daniel said it before with O, he just likes to do things differently. And I think this record just shows that, I wouldn't say he doesn't care, but he just wants to write music that he likes listen to as well, and not only like sell music to people. And Powernerd is an homage to, I think, his childhood and his upcoming in this rock kind of world. It's super nerdy, and it's still super proggy for Devin. So I think Devin needs to be protected at all costs, because that's one of the greatest musicians of our time, in my opinion. And I think Powernerd is the title, obviously, of the record. Powernerd tends to be a bit more, cringy, maybe a bit more cheesy, but I think it's not as nerdy as you might think.
Maybe it fits with the music.
It definitely fits with the character who portrays the music.
Yeah, his character. Yeah,
I think it's maybe even a record that took him less long to produce compared to those complicated arrangements on Empath, for example. But it's just like, I'm writing some music and I really enjoy what I'm doing here, even though the songs are not complicated or not progressive enough, but they fit exactly what I'm feeling right now. And for some reason, that really got into me. So, there you have it. Powernerd number 6.
It's an album title that kind of like appeals to me somehow personally, just the title.
Yeah.
But I must confess, I never got to listen to it. So
no worries, man. We missed out quite a few things anyway, for all of us. So we all have.
I want to say the same thing. I knew it was coming out. I knew it was out, and I wanted to listen to it, but I didn't. I forgot about it. I didn't have the time, and later I forgot about it. And that's a shame, because I'm not the biggest Devin Townsend fan in the world, but I like him. I like some of his music. I like him as a person. He's such an wholesome and funny guy, and I think I will give it a try.
So I guess I'll move on with my number 6, and I'll provide some strong contrasts. And of course, we're going to talk about black metal. And I have HULDER, Verses of Oath. We spoke about this album already during the Hidden Gems episode, so I'll keep it short. HULDER is the brainchild of multi-instrumentalist Marlies Beusart, and it's a solo black metal project. And it kind of brings together a second wave of black metal, and it kind of weaves it together with kind of dark medieval folklore. So it kind of feels ancient, but very raw, very mournful.
Yeah.
It's like howling winds and battering blast beats, very evil kind of vocals, and some kind of cool, gloomy synth in the background to kind of spicing it up. So I'm not going to say too much about it, but this record impressed me a lot. And for somebody who likes some raw, darker black metal, this is for you.
Yeah, you basically said it all. I mean, it's a very cold record that fits with the season. Definitely
fits with any season for me.
Okay,
I kind of forgot about it. I don't know why. That's already a few months back, the last time when I listened to it. But yeah, it's a very good black metal album, and my list was already too big to put it in. But still, great stuff.
We could have done like a top 50, and we would still be here 1 week after that.
So we move on to my number 6, and that's another black metal band. We're talking about AKHLYS and House of the Black Geminus. It's already been 4 years since the US black metal band has released the last album, Melinoe. I think it's pronounced like that. And I kind of love that one. I was quite excited to get my hands on House of the Black Geminus. And I didn't get disappointed. They created once again a musical abyss. This is as evil as it gets. I don't know any other black metal band that knows how to create that creepy, haunting wall of sound and deliver such an intense experience. The new one is kind of less chaotic than the previous albums and more focused on, let's say, sound experimentation. The production quality feels sometimes overloaded and almost noisy, but I think that's what they wanted to be, to sound more like, let's say, a nightmare. I think they're really focused on the theme of nightmares, and
It feels very unsafe listening to this record. I feel unsafe listening to this record. It's just it's creepy. It's creepy.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's very creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intimidating. It's oppressive. It's really like a nightmare that you can't wake up from.
Basically, yeah. But a solid record. Solid record, definitely. I think for number 5, since we, for some reason, all have the same record on number 5, and to be fair, we did not check our list beforehand. So everybody
pure coincidence.
Pure coincidence.
Yeah.
But I think well deserved. So on number 5, we all have OPETH with The Last Will and Testament. What a surprise, to be fair, what OPETH did with this record. And yes, the growls are back, but that's not the cherry on top of the cake. I think the record is more than just the growls. People keep talking only about the growls, which is kind of annoying. It is annoying to me, it's annoying to you guys, and I think it's also annoying to Michael Ackerman as well. But I don't know. The record is they just know how to write concept records. I think that's their jam. They really should stick with this narrative kind of vibe with Ian Anderson as a narrative flute player. I mean, it's insanely good. It's insanely good and detailed, and it remains OPETH. They still give like those nuances and homage to even records that were not well reviewed. For example, Heritage or Pale Communion or Sorceress to some. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that OPETH have never been content to repeat themselves. Each album went into another direction. There was always some new experimentation going on. So they fleshed out new patterns, ideas, and tried to stay ahead of the curve. And subverting expectations. And again, with this one, they subverted expectation. I did not expect to hear growls again on this one. And it worked so well because it embraces old OPETH, middle OPETH, let's say more recent OPETH, and they bring it together in one album that therefore it feels like, I would say, almost like the most complete OPETH album that we had so far, to kind of like, it's almost like a bridge, a resume of what they've done so far.
I think everyone got hyped for this album, and
for sure.
You guys said to me a lot that you got reminded of Heritage when you listened to it. At first, I didn't get it. After listening to Heritage again, now I kind of get it, because we got these folky, jazzy, almost psychedelic rock sections back. The growls are back, but even though the growls are back, you cannot describe this album as a death metal album. Absolutely not.
No.
It's a modern OPETH album, and I think they're kind of reinventing themselves. I like the weird changes in the songs, and
also the unexpectedness. For so many songs, they feel more. It's not like let's say a 7-minute song. It's more like several smaller songs packed into one with those perfect interplays of either narration or very different sound changes also, which makes this record even more interesting.
It's very complex, but it also feels accessible, almost like light-hearted. The guitar solos work very well. They come out of nowhere when you don't expect. The vibrant keyboards work very well too. I also have to talk about their new drummer, Valtteri. It's difficult to pronounce his last name. Maybe I will not try to butcher it. Really demonstrates some exceptional instinct to provide always the right rhythms and patterns for each segment. And all these segments, they go through a lot of different phases, and it never feels forced. It feels very organic, very natural, and it never gets boring.
You said it. I mean, the drummer, it's a very young guy compared to the rest of the band, and he really delivers, right?
As you said, it's really complex, but not that hard to listen to. I think it's also because the songs are much shorter than some older songs of Opeth.
Yeah, but they don't feel short. That's what I mean. Like when I said like
No.
the songs, for
Yeah,
some reason they intertwine and then
also-
they yeah.
That's also because it's a concept album and it works as a whole.
Yeah.
As a story. And Opeth know how to write great concept albums with
Agreed.
great stories. I think this is my favorite Opeth album since Ghost Riveries, I could say.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Watershed was the last one where we got growls, but Watershed lacked in determination and I think also in emotional content compared to this one. This one is really, even though it's a concept and there's a story behind it, and it's also this certain eeriness which I really like. I mean, the cover alone, come on! I mean, that's like the screen, right? That's perfection.
That's also the humor in it.
Yeah.
Ackerfeld's humor.
Yeah.
I was a bit worried when I saw the album title for the first time because it sounds like is this their last?
Yeah. I thought.
Is this what they want to leave for the world, and that's it? I hope not.
Maybe.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think maybe this is just Michael's way of saying, okay, this is now probably not necessarily what people wanted, but still they got what they wanted, which is again the growls to some. And maybe this is like the first and last record that we see Opeth do either a concept record or in this particular setup and in this particular way of sounding. Maybe as Pitt said, I think they are still evolving. So which is great. I mean, after such a career that they bang this record. I mean, come on. There's so many bands out there that have several years of history, and sad but true. But you still see a decline in terms of what they release. But this is like, hi, we are back, and we basically still do what we want and what we know best, and that is writing not death metal music, but Opeth music. I think now is really their thing, and no one even dares. Okay, you take inspiration from Opeth, other bands do as well, but they just know how. That's just the way it is, basically.
There's so many bands that try to
replicate or
imitate, copy what they're doing, and then we would call it Opethian metal. I like that word, Opethian.
Almost.
But so they remain the masters. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we talked way too much already over this record.
We gotta move on.
We gotta move on. So we'll move to number 4. My number 4 is Nostalgia from Mexico with the record Nepenthe. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So my message to Alex there, the main guy behind Nepenthe, behind Nostalgia. Please calm the fuck down. I don't know how to handle 3 records a year. That's too much for me. You know, you could just do 1 or 2. Or 2 is already too much. And then he dropped this a few weeks while we are recording this, few weeks back. And it is such a strange record, but I really like it. But then again, I have a kind of a jazzy background. I really enjoy jazz and those complex sound arrangements. And for some, I tried with the previous record, Terminal Lucidity, that came out a few months back, and the previous one before, Phaneron, which is just, it sounds wrong to some because the notes and the interplay between the instruments is very off, but as a whole, it just makes sense. And this is just like 3 tracks with one that is extremely long, over 20 minutes. And I got several, let's say if Mike Oldfield would do black metal, I think that's what would come out of it. Very, very weird, very strange, but very evocative and very vulnerable. Typical me. I know what you guys think. Please butcher me.
No, it's as I said, it's kind of chill music, but I think that you also talked about it in the Hidden Gems episode.
Yes.
Is that right? That's
that was
another album.
Back
that was
then.
The previous one, I guess.
That was the previous record that also came out this year. So again,
calm
down.
I only listened to that. I think only the first 2 songs, maybe. It's not really my kind of let's say black metal. It's not really black metal. It's
Yeah,
it
black gaze
has
and
elements of black metal, black
Yeah.
gaze, and yeah, it's depressive and it's not definitely it's not bad. It's a really talented guy and workaholic, I think.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's not really my kind of black metal.
Happens. I totally
Happens, yeah.
understand. I totally understand. It's really not easy to listen to, but for me, it's very rewarding.
Well, it's one of those albums that I missed. I think I might have tried. I don't know if it was this one or the one before, but it was one of those days where I wasn't really focused. I could have listened to whatever and would not have been able to focus. Then I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, I see you've developed so much passion for this band, so I gotta check it out when my focus is there.
I think it's just
to really see why it has that effect on me.
It's just insane because I wrote with him not too long ago, but he reassured me that okay, next year I'll do only one record. So like, wow. Don't you want to take a break? Like I find it hilarious, in some ways hilarious that musicians can have this huge package where they just need to unload stuff. Very often it's not good or not well produced, but for a solo project, and to be fair, I think I have two. Yeah, I actually have two solo projects on my top 10. This is nuts. I mean, this level of determination, and he basically wants to get better and better, and I think that's what Nepenthe stands for. I discovered them again way back and they're not that old. I think they are 4 years old, not even 3 years. So, and you can really tell already a difference the way the songs evolve and the structures and the whole process of writing music. And that, for me, as an upcoming musician myself, so that is quite inspiring to me.
Okay, so I'll move to my number 4, and we go to Italy, to FLESHGOD, AKHLYS,
Buonasera,
Opera.
ciao tutti.
And yeah, this is a big decadent record. I mean, it's symphonic death metal, and they don't mess around. So it's really punishing aggression, colossal compositions, operatic flair. It's all there. A lot of piano melodies, operatic vocals, and then drums at 270 BPM. So it's almost a bit too much, but it's awesome. And I've loved these guys for many years. So this is pretty much my fanboy
the fetish
inclusion.
Band, kind of.
Fetish, yeah. Anyway, yeah, if you want to put it that way. Yeah, this FLESHGOD, AKHLYS are surely no strangers to the metal scene. They have been around for quite a few years. A lot of people will know them from the song "The Violation" from the Agony album, which dates back already quite a few years. And the drums at the time, they were just ridiculously fast, and it was an album where, let's say, the drums were a bit too much, and it kind of drowned out everything else. There was big, let's say, symphonic soundscape. The guitars were a little lost in the mix, but since then they have improved the production, the overall songwriting, and this one, let's say, it is the calmest album so far, but calmest is kind of not really the best way to put it, because it's still very fast.
But
compared to the rest, it's maybe, as some I've read before, that it's a bit of Nightwish in there. So there's a bit of
I see that.
A symphonic flair that you usually associate with the big Finnish bands or so, and I think that also has something to do with the changes in the lineup. So they had the bass player Paolo Rossi, who also did clean vocals on previous records. He left the band, and then they had kind of that gap to fill, and so for the vocal parts they had their opera singer Veronica, who now took over his parts, and now she's a lot more in the forefront of
you can definitely
the
tell on the
overall
record.
I mean, she's on the artwork as well.
Yeah.
And so this, so you hear a lot more of her, and that kind of gave the whole thing a bit of a different dynamic. But it's still heavy, it's still fast, it's spectacular, and there's some really cool composition, especially on the piano, and I love the piano. The overall premise of the album is quite a serious one because the main man behind FLESHGOD Apocalypse is still Francesco Paoli, who used to be also the drummer, and now is guitar player, songwriter, vocalist, and he is also a passionate mountaineer.
Okay.
And so he had a very horrific near-death accident in the mountains, and he was very severely injured. And when he got to the hospital and first had surgery, the doctors told him, "You're not going to walk again." He didn't take that up for an answer, and he found better doctors, and he was able to eventually move again and play music and so on. He used all that trauma that he faced there to channel that into this album, because pretty much every song is about that near-death experience.
Damn.
So you have a song like Morphine Waltz, so when you got lots of morphine because of the pain after the surgery. Or he had another song, Matricide, which is about, let's say, how his family and his mother were so worried about him, and how he apologized to them for putting them through that stress. So that is the basic premise of the album.
I didn't know that. It took a very dark turn.
They implemented with absolutely decadent, ridiculously bombastic death metal and symphonic metal. It's something for me. It's not for everybody, but I gave this a 10 out of 10, and that's why it's so high on my list.
Yeah. I didn't know the backstory, to be fair. But I mean, me
neither.
I think we had at least a listen to some songs, not the entire record. What else do you want to say to this? I mean, it's bombast in its purest form, and it's super well executed. So for me, I was pretty sure when you put together the list that, okay, this might be very close to the top 3, maybe even in there, but again, there were so many other things. But well deserved, I guess.
Yeah, FLESHGOD Apocalypse are insane. They're just insane. They're so fast. They're so epic as fuck. Overloaded wall of sound, and this album, I think I listened to it only once because of time. Great, it's great. I actually prefer the older ones. I'm a big fan of Agony. It's one of my favorites, and listen to all the new ones. I like King, but opera is really great. On 4, I have the German band KANONENFIEBER with die Urkatastrophe. German guys who created this blackened death metal group, and they really made themselves a big name in the metal scene in the last few years, and rightly so, who could say. The whole concept is based on the tragedies of World War I, of course. Yeah, they're definitely not the first ones who did this, but they do a great job interpreting it. Sound is uncompromising and brutal. The album almost sounds like a bomb striking in. I was kind of hyped for this album, and I didn't expect it to be this good. It's an absolute masterpiece from front to back.
I mean, what else do you want to say to this? Because I can't say much to it. Because my number 3 is this record, right? So KANONENFIEBER, die Urkatastrophe is truthful and ugly. It's desperate and heavy. It's just a message that we never should forget the past. But I think we'll keep most of the speech for Daniel, because I think he might need it.
I have it. Yeah, I have it in my
higher, very
top
high.
3.
Yeah. So I think we should move on. Daniel's number 3 in this case.
To my number 3. Yes. Okay, so I have a band that I didn't really quite expect to put so high, and that is Oceans of Slumber, where
Mhm.
gods fear to speak. Well, they've been around also for quite a few years, so they're not unbeknownst to the scene. And so they have somber melodies, dark lyricism, but also very harmonious soundscapes and brilliant vocals.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And find their music very evocative. They gaze into human nature, myriad into, let's say they interpret it with myriad of emotional layers, and showing that we're kind of conflicted beings. And the music is progressive, but it's also very emotional. And I think that this album is pretty much the epitome of what they have been striving for as a band. And they did not compromise who they are at their core. So I mentioned the vocals. So Cami Beverly, she has these. It's also kind of unique for metal. Is this like gospel influenced, soul influenced vocals? But she has amazing control over that voice, and she really brings out all the emotions through that voice, which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Also considering that you have progressive, let's say, kind of like techy kind of grooves and percussion in the background flowing with it. And so the album can feel very warm, very comforting, but it can also at some point just be very eruptive. This is the first album where she actually growls.
Yeah.
Her growls are surprisingly wild. So it's really like a beast. And I wasn't even sure it was her in the beginning. I thought it would be one of the guys in the band. But
Yeah, I
no,
thought the
it's
same.
her.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that gives the whole thing yet another layer. The album really made me, let's say, it's like when you listen to something and it just makes you warm in your heart. It sounds a bit cringe when I say it like that,
I
but
think
I
it
guess
makes-
it's basically
No, not at all.
basically because of the vocals. They have also a cover of Wicked game from Chris Isaac.
Yeah, insane.
Most people know
yeah.
that's that song Wicked Game or Blue Hotel. And they made a very interesting cover of that. She sings it so well, but it is Oceans of Slumber. And I really implore everybody to listen to this. I still keep going back to it, and I do not regret putting it so high in my list, even higher than, let's say, FLESHGOD.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for me, I'm not very surprised. To be fair, I probably knew that you would put it as high as this. To me, there's no defense. I'm gonna be honest here. I listened to the record a lot. I really liked it a lot. I think I reviewed it myself. I gave it a 10. I forgot about it. Otherwise, it would be in my top 10. It would definitely be in my top 10 because everything you said, top notch, and I'll sign the papers because it's exactly that. It's insane. This band is I think they're just starting to write not good. They've been doing some very good and stable records for several years now. This surpasses even for me. I really like the self-titled one, the just Oceans of Slumber one with the mountain and the fire. Pray for Fire, the song, that was the first one I heard, and that blew my face off. I really like the interplay between all you said and those blast beats that suddenly erupt out of nowhere, and then it's really, really intriguing and really interesting to listen to Oceans of Slumber.
I haven't listened to the album yet as a whole. I only listened to two songs. I think there was the two singles that they have published.
Yeah,
they have released, and it was surprisingly good. I really also liked the vocalist. She has a great vocal range, and as you said, the growls also got me. They got me by surprise. I think I should listen to the album too. I don't know why. I don't know why I did not.
I mean,
I definitely should.
again, there was so much going on, so no
Yeah,
shame
it's
taken in anything. We
yeah,
missed out so many
yeah.
things, and I'm sure we'll
Mhm.
discover it maybe next year somewhere. Like, oh, this came out last year. You know, it happens every year,
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah,
No,
that happens. Yeah, that happens every
it's too much. Too much.
It's just too
metal.
much to handle.
So I have Convulsing with Perdurance. Another album we'll be talking about in Gems episodes, like already a few. It's a one-man solo band from Australia, a guy called LOWEN. Yeah, and this is once again dissonant, very technical, progressive death metal. Definitely not easy to listen to, at least for this one, I can say it. But it's a very well executed work of art and creates an eerie atmosphere that is ugly and beautiful at the same time. Avant-garde extreme level at a very high level, and it gets me every time I listen to it. I listen to it a lot throughout the year. Even today, I have listened to it, and
Who would
I
have
still
thought?
like it. I would highly recommend this album to everyone who's into, I would say avant-garde, practical, dissonant stuff.
Yeah, this is not for me, so I'm not going to say anything about it.
For me,
But
for
you,
me.
yeah.
I mean, I listened to it as well. It's an album that a lot of people don't talk about, but
It's very underground, yeah.
which is a shame because it could definitely compete with the best of the best in this on death metal of this year or the last few years. So really, don't sleep on it.
Maybe if I have a good day, I will give it a try. No guarantees, though.
Or bad day.
Or bad day, yeah. More like a bad day. Yeah, we are closing in very soon. So we'll come to number 2.
Almost there.
Almost there. So hang in there. We might actually make it this time. So my number 2, I mean, Jill music as at its best. Alceste with Les Chants de l'Aurore. Shoegaze overload. I got several flashbacks to the previous records. Shelter. It's obviously more black gazy even than Shelter was. It is so ambient. It is melancholic. It is beautiful. Nej, the singer, has never sounded better. I mean, Alcest, what else do you want me to say? I mean, it's one of my bands, right? So
it's one of your favorite bands, I think.
I think it's definitely grown to be one of my favorite bands. Yeah,
it's not surprising to see it that far up on your list.
yeah.
I mean, I love the album, no doubt about it. It's not in my top 10 list, but it's still very high on my end of the year list, nonetheless. Yeah, it's. I was actually a bit worried that might not be. It might disappoint me a little. I don't know why I thought that, but I'm very glad it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's very dreamy. It's definitely a bit more shoegazy.
Yeah.
But it's like a blanket, a warm blanket.
Exactly that. It's a nice
cozy.
Yeah, a nice dream basically on the beach. For some reason, if I think of Alcest, I think of very flat beaches with miles to walk and the waves clashing in, crushing in. Perfect. Well, that's unique. I mean, I don't need anything else. So.
I really like Alcest. Well, maybe not as much as Jill does, but over the years, I really learned to love the band. This one got me by surprise. I also thought that I wouldn't like it that much. Jill already said maybe it's a little bit too soft for you. I really liked it, and it almost made it to my top 10 list. But yeah, that was too much.
I was surprised when we had a chat and you said, "Oh, I think I might put it in my top 10." I was like,
"Yeah, maybe." It's really great album. It's really cozy and chill and soft and dreamy.
Yeah,
really like it.
I think I'll go to my runner-up, my number 2. And that is some space metal, Blood Incantation, Absolute Everywhere.
I know someone who is very happy now.
I'm very happy. This is an album that I didn't expect at all. I didn't even know it was going to come out until let's say a few weeks before it did. And but I would say this is Blood Incantation at the absolute best. So they started off with kind of complicated, spacey, dark death metal.
Yeah.
Then they had an album where they did only electronics, no metal at all, only some spacey sounds, soundscapes, and now they kind of brought it together. And so they combined this kind of seismic force of death metal with the charisma of vintage prog rock, like from the 70s. So for those that like Pink Floyd, they will find something on this album. Absolutely. So basically, you could consider it almost an homage to 70s progressive rock, but they kind of dress it in a 90s death metal outfit. And then they put atmospheric, synth, psychedelic textures in it. And so it feels very immersive. They have 2 tracks, which is the Stargate and the Message, and each one of them are split into 3 tablets. They call it tablets. And so it's an expansive cosmic journey, putting together these progressive soundscape. It goes up and down, lush electronic elements, and then all of a sudden it erupts with this kind of monumental death metal. The guitars are amazing, the vocals are great, the drumming is really intricate, taking everything always a step further. And so if you like something with space, and even a little bit of Middle Eastern vibes as well, then you will absolutely love this. I've seen this album on so many end of the year lists already. It got amazing reviews. And is it overhyped? I would say no, it's not overhyped. It's really as good as many of these people tell you. And so am I telling you. So listen to this record. It's bloody perfect.
I will definitely give it another try. I'm going to be very fair here. I tried with the Stargate. I think was the first single that was tablet 2. I think I for some reason I did not get into it. It was maybe too complex for me at that particular moment when I listened to it. But as you said, reviews are praising this over the top. I think for me personally, it feels a bit overhyped not because the record is bad, because everybody's talking about it. Like suddenly, and that is like a bit. Usually, that's something that will put me off. But if you say it, I will definitely give it another try.
I can explain why, but this should be in the band, and this should be an album that I should like, because everything it has is something that I like, but it didn't make it for me. Yeah, it happens. Blood Incantation, it was never got into them. I don't know why. I really can't explain it. This album. It's great musically. It's great.
Yeah,
great piece of art. But yeah, it's kind of too much. It was kind of too much for me.
Let us know what your second record is then.
Another crazy stuff album.
Crazy name.
On number 2, I got Oranzi Pazuzu with Muntautuya, I think it's pronounced like that. I absolutely love this band since I discovered them in 2019, 2020. They are from Finland, and they are mostly described as a psychedelic avant-garde black metal band, which is kind of true, but yeah, it doesn't tell the whole story. This album is as unconventional and as unpredictable as it gets. For those who know their previous album, Messatin Kinsey, which I also really like, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. This one feels a lot darker, but also more straightforward at the same time, with more industrial-like influences and even more distorted as usual. Yet it creates an hypnotizing beauty with his sounds. I got a lot of different emotions while I listened to it, and claustrophobic and creepy at the same time, but I also can see beauty in it, and it also should be experienced as a whole album. You can't just say, "Oh, I listened to that song." No, you should listen to the whole album. And yeah, that's why I keep it on my second place. It's really love it.
I'm out.
Okay,
I can understand why.
I'm halfway in. Um, the way I feel about this album is the way Pitt feels about my number 2. I listened to this album a few times, and it's interesting, but it just didn't click. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And maybe because I was doing things while listening to it, or just like
could be.
thinking about real life stuff, and therefore it sounded more like random, something random. And okay, maybe it's my fault because I didn't focus. Some music just requires concentration, and when that is not there, you just will not appreciate it as much.
I totally get that.
Fair play.
They're also not really not easy to listen to. It's a very experimental band, and they're not for everybody. That's for sure.
I mean, the name alone speaks mysteries. So
yeah, but it's a Finnish name.
yeah, but
I think it means orange Pazuzu, and
Okay.
Pazuzu it's the name of the demon in the movie The Exorcist.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't know that. Okay. Well, we learned all something here today. Okay, I think we made it. We are finally there. Number 1, the gold medal, the award of, at least for me, for best record of the year to me goes to a very unexpected pick and very, very recent addition, because this, by the time we're recording this, is not even out. But I got a sneak peek, and this is right up my alley. This is everything I want. This is everything I like to hear when I listen to metal music. This is KALLIACH with their second record, Bastion, that will come out only on December 13. So I think I've never had such an enjoyable listening experience than with this record. It's progressive black metal with a lot of atmosphere, a lot of sci-fi, and a shit ton of synthwave. Maybe I'm sure Pitt will probably like this one better, I think.
Yeah, sounds promising.
Because the synth and the synthwave elements, they really round this record off. Again, thank you so much to KALLIACH and Frank Harper to giving us the record a bit early to give it like a sneak peek, because I knew the band before with the Black Widow Nebula that came out a few years, I think 4 years ago. If you like space exploring journeys, I think this is right there. This is the record that will probably take over several spots in my I will say it, my top records of all time. I mean, compared to, I will just open brackets here and say that yes, I am a big Wintersun fan, still am, but I fear for the OG record that it will drop in its rating, because this has similar emotional levels to me and inspiring levels to me in comparison to Wintersun. Well done, KALLIACH, for surprising me so late in the year, and you will. I think both of you will probably like it, probably more than other stuff that I have on my top 10 list, because this is way more death metal-y, proggy, death gazy kind of. It's really a mix of several genres that are all blended very well together. I highly suggest and highly recommend this one to anyone.
Sounds definitely promising when you describe it. I didn't know about this at all, to be fair.
It's a solo project, so nothing it was not an intention, you know. At first, I'm going to be very, very honest here. My top 10 list was pretty much done, and when when they announced that, we'll release a new record, I was like, oh, nice, I remember the first record, let's go back and have a listen. Damn, that record sounds very cool still today. And especially one song, Solaris, it's called, on the first record, that is really such a beautiful song and fast blast beat kind of overload song, but with emotions. And so I thought, if it's as good as the first one, why not? Yes, it is way better than the first one, and it has way more layers than... It's a wall of sound, of emotions, and of progressive music in your face, basically. And I'm seriously overwhelmed by the fact that this is only one person that has written this entire beast. And congrats.
I'll know what I'll
Now
be
I'm kind of
doing
excited.
on next Friday when it will be coming out.
Yeah.
I gave the first album a listen
Mhm.
because, well, I saw that you had posted about it, and you were full of praise when you said this is the best record of 2024 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I said, like, okay. But then I noticed, that album does not exist yet. So what's he talking about?
Yeah.
But it's you remember the first song Solaris. I listened to it a few times. It's really, really cool. Yeah. So I'm when it comes out, even though I kind of not going to review much anymore this year, but this one will most possibly be an exception. So yeah, looking forward to it. So thank you very much.
I mean, you're most welcome. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah. Really excited. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so time for my number one, and well, you kind of gave it away already. So it's KANONENFIEBER, die Urkatastrophe. I like saying that. It's got this nice German ring to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what else? Yeah. Well, what can I say about this? It's way, way better than I had expected. I like the first album, but it had some flaws here and there. I love the album cover back then, some kind of skeleton general, which they now call Fritz, was kind of shoveling humans into a gigantic cannon, like a meat grinder. And so that's basically what World War One was, especially the war in the trenches. But this one is way better. It kind of drifted away from, let's say, black metal more towards black and death, but that's just a style thing. It doesn't really matter what you call it. You call it black metal, death metal, or something in between. The production is so good on this one. The songwriting is very well thought through. It's a history lesson. I consider this a concept album that is a history lesson. Yeah. So I did some research, on about different songs and what was behind it, because then they put a few names there. It's like, okay, that's this general, or okay, that was that battle and this battle, and that happened here and that happened there. Of course, there's the Battle of Verdun, which they sing about in Ausblutungsschlacht, another great German word. So 700,000 casualties. I mean, it's just unimaginable, the horrors of that war, but the metal they put behind this really does it justice. It's massive, it's dark, it's heavy, it's fierce. The vocals are amazing. Noise has never sounded this good on any of his records. And this guy is a very busy man. He's also pretty much, this is a solo record too, except for the drums. This is like, the drums were recorded by the live drummer. So you have songs like Gott mit der Kavallerie, which is about the Belgian cavalry commander who defeated the German troops. Then you have songs like Der Maulwurf, which was about digging tunnels under the trenches to kind of get behind enemy lines. And Lviv to Lemberg was a battle about the eastern part of Europe. And so it's not just the metal itself, which is so well done. The riffs, the drums, all of it is really fun to listen to. But it's the narrative that really makes this album stand out for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we all have it on our list anyway. I mean, you said it. It's a history lesson done well. what I personally really enjoy with KANONENFIEBER, okay, there are other bands that do similar portrayal of World War One themes or the conflict. The term glorification is not associated with KANONENFIEBER.
Not at all. No.
Not at all. It's
Uh-huh.
we are showing and sing about the horrors that happened there, and those poor bastards that were giving their life for nothing, basically.
For nothing.
So
it's like anti-war metal.
Yeah, it's anti-war metal. Even
Definitely.
though I have the cover here, so I will just show it so that I don't have many vinyls, but this one had to be. This one had to be right. I mean, this speaks for itself, right? So
the Fritz,
yeah, perfection,
and also the fact that the album is recorded in German, and they also like snippets of old or real audio records that kind of gives it another
a character also.
Atmosphere, another character. Yeah, very much.
Great.
Okay, picked number one. We know what it is.
Okay, so yeah, we kind of give the way also. My number one is ULCERATE with Cutting the Throat of God.
It's such a cool title.
I think no other album, it's a really cool title, yeah. I think no other album punched me that hard in the stomach as this one. And I mean that in a good way, because this is so crushing. Throat, listen, this... how can I say it? Sometimes it's really difficult to describe. So, ULCERATE, yeah, they're also a death metal band, Dissonance death metal band from New Zealand. Sixth full length album, I don't remember what now.
It could be or something like that.
Seventh.
Seventh, yeah, exactly. Slightly less dissonant than the previous albums, but occasionally more melodic and more accessible to some people. But in no way less intense. Such an experience to listen to it. It's so mesmerizing. It's a very complex wall of sound with dissonant sounds, and they cast kind of spell over you while you listen to it and suck you into an abyss. Definitely, no other album got me that hard as this one.
I mean, I agree with everything you just said. Just when you listen to the first few seconds of the album, I love the first song so much.
You already know what you get.
Yeah, you probably have it in your head as I say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I already knew, this is going to be so good, and it does not disappoint.
No way.
It's kind of a bit intense to fully stay concentrated because it's so much happening, so complex. I mean, just the drums are one of the best drumming performances this year. Hands down. The vocals are so brutal and gruff. It's impossible for people that like this very harsh stuff. It's impossible not to like.
Yeah, some really interesting music for all of us, I think. Some that we knew, some new things that we discovered or will discover in the very near future. I think with that, because we took up quite some time now to do this and to stay focused, especially. So I think it's safe to say that we will basically say our thanks to everybody who enjoyed and listened to us and gave us a shout out or whatever over 2024. Yeah, we'll see what happens next year, basically.
Probably a lot.
We already know. I know a few.
We already know.
There's some few records that are already like on the wish list. So, damn, I have to review this. I'm not even talking about Daniel. Daniel is already dreading away. Like, oh, damn, this will be a horrific year.
I'll step on the brake a little bit.
I
feel a little burnt out, to be honest.
I get it. I get
that. Yeah.
But we'll see next year. We don't know exactly what is going to happen next year. We know a few releases, and we know that there will be a lot of Luxembourgish releases as well. I think on this note, I will say my biggest thanks, first of all, to both of you, Daniel and Pitt. We are all saying a big thank you to all of you out there. And with this, I will say bye-bye and thank you. and see you next year, basically.
Yeah. Happy holidays for everyone.
And good night.
Alright.
Especially good night.
And good luck.
Okay, guys. See you very
Yeah.
soon.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Bye bye.